The moment Cadet Mira Solis stepped into the Federation Tactical Academy's training arena on Ardon 9, she knew something was different. The air felt charged, not with the usual recycled oxygen, but with anticipation. Her classmates huddled in small groups, whispering excitedly instead of checking their gear. Even the instructors seemed tense, their usual stoic expressions replaced with subtle glances toward the sealed containment chamber at the far end of the arena. "They're bringing in Predator X today," Tarek Omari said, appearing beside her, tall and lanky, with dark curls that defied regulation cuts. He had been her closest ally since day one at the academy. The real one, not the holographic simulation. Mira felt her stomach tighten. "I thought that was just a rumor." "Confirmed this morning. Professor Ryland signed off on it. Says we need authentic combat experience before the end-term assessments." Tarek's usual smile was absent, replaced by a tight-lipped grimace. Predator X. The name alone sent shivers through the Academy's halls. Indigenous to Ardon 9's southern hemisphere, it had evolved in the harshest conditions imaginable: acidic swamps, electromagnetic storms, and gravitational fluctuations that would crush most sentient species. Its 6 limbs ended in retractable blades capable of slicing through standard-issue armor. Its sensory system could detect heartbeats from 30 meters away. And its neural patterns, if you could call them that, showed problem-solving abilities that rivaled some sentient species. "Why now?" Mira asked, checking her pulse rifle for the 3rd time. Standard procedure, but her hands moved mechanically, disconnected from her racing thoughts. "We're barely halfway through the tactical training module." "Apparently," Tarek lowered his voice, leaning closer. "There's been pressure from the board to accelerate certain cadets. Rumors say they're considering special operations deployment due to the Centauri border situation." Before Mira could respond, the arena's main doors slid open with a hydraulic hiss. Professor Ryland strode in, his silver exoskeleton gleaming under the arena lights. At 73 standard years, he still moved with military precision, the slight mechanical assistance barely noticeable except to trained eyes. "Cadets, attention!" His voice boomed through the chamber without electronic amplification, a product of decades commanding strike teams across 3 galactic quadrants. "Today's exercise deviates from your standard curriculum, but the Tactical Division believes you're ready for advanced combat scenarios." The 32 cadets formed a semicircle around him, a multi-species collection of the Federation's finest young talents. Mira noticed how they instinctively grouped by planetary origin: the Proxima twins with their reflective skins standing together, the 4 Eridani cadets with their characteristic height forming a cluster, and the handful of Earthborn humans like herself scattered throughout. And then there was Leon Karg, standing alone as always, the Deathworlder champion. They called him in whispers. Born on Ardon, raised in its killing fields before the Federation terraforming made parts of the planet habitable. His ancestors had survived here for generations, adapting to conditions that would kill most humans within hours. Leon's physical capabilities exceeded standard human metrics by at least 30%. But it was his unpredictability that made other cadets keep their distance. Professor Ryland activated the central holographic display, revealing a 3-dimensional map of the training arena with its various obstacles, barricades, and tactical positions. The objective remains simple: neutralize the target or survive until the extraction timer expires. You'll operate in teams of 4, rotating through the arena in 15-minute intervals. Standard training weapons only. They're calibrated to register impact on the creature's nervous system without causing permanent damage. A murmur rippled through the group. 15 minutes against Predator X seemed like an eternity. "What are the success metrics, Professor?" asked Cadet Yara Sen, always the strategic thinker. Her ancestral home on Europa had produced some of the Federation's most brilliant tactical minds. "Survival is the primary metric." Cadet Sen, Ryland replied dryly. Beyond that, your team's performance will be evaluated on tactical coordination, adaptive response, and resource management under extreme pressure. Another cadet raised his hand, Darius Wells, Earthborn but raised on the mining colonies of Titan. Sir, the Predator's sensory system. Are we cleared to use disruptors? Negative. The creature's neural mapping is extremely valuable to xenobiology research. You'll rely on conventional tactics only. Mira exchanged glances with Tarek. Conventional tactics against an unconventional predator. It seemed like a deliberate handicap. As Professor Ryland continued outlining the exercise parameters, Mira noticed Leon shift his position, moving closer to the viewing glass that separated them from the containment chamber. His eyes were fixed on the dark shape barely visible within. Predator X, sedated but soon to awaken in the arena. One final note, Ryland concluded, his tone hardening. While this exercise pushes boundaries, it remains controlled. The arena's emergency protocols can neutralize the creature within 2.3 seconds if necessary. However, he swept his gaze across the cadets. Triggering emergency protocols will result in automatic failure for your entire team. The Federation doesn't deploy emergency extractions in actual combat scenarios, and neither will this academy. The assignments appeared on their personal devices. Mira found herself teamed with Tarek, as usual, along with cadets Leon Zhao and Keldoros. A balanced squad. Leon's expertise in tactical positioning complemented Kel's background in xenobiology. Team 4, Tarek noted, will be the fourth group in. That meant they had to watch 3 other teams face the Predator before their turn. Mira wasn't sure if that was an advantage or not. Time to observe strategies, but also time for fear to take root. As they moved to the observation deck, a voice cut through the nervous chatter. I'll take it down in 1 round. All heads turned toward Leon Karg. He hadn't spoken loudly, but something in his tone commanded attention. Absolute certainty without bravado. Professor Ryland's eyebrows rose slightly. Cadet Karg, this isn't a competition. The exercise is designed to test our limits, Leon interrupted. Something no other cadet would dare. So, test them. Put me in solo against the Predator. The challenge hung in the air. Ryland's cybernetic hand flexed unconsciously, a rare display of irritation. You'll follow the assigned team rotation like everyone else. Cadet, Team 7, with Cadets Vex, Moreno, and Sun. Leon's expression didn't change, but Mira caught something in his eyes. Not disappointment, but calculation. He nodded once and moved to join his reluctant teammates, who shifted uncomfortably at his approach. What was that about? Tarek whispered, as they took their positions in the observation area. Mira shook her head. I don't know, but he's planning something. He's always planning something, Tarek replied. The question is whether it gets us all killed or just him. Below, the arena was transforming. Barriers rose from the floor, creating a complex maze of cover positions. Atmospheric controls adjusted to Predator X's preferred conditions, humidity rising, temperature dropping several degrees. In the center, a circular zone remained open, surrounded by tactical positions at varied elevations. First team, prepare for deployment, Ryland announced. Remember your training. Coordinate, communicate, survive. 4 cadets entered the arena, moving immediately into defensive formation. Their nervousness was evident even from the observation deck. Slightly rushed movements, overchecking of equipment. A klaxon sounded, and the containment chamber at the far end of the arena opened. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a shadow moved, fluid, almost graceful. Predator X emerged, its 6 limbs touching the ground in perfect synchronization. It stood motionless, sensory appendages twitching as it processed the new environment. Even sedated and transported, it had lost none of its primal awareness. Goddess preserve us, someone whispered behind Mira. The creature was larger than the holograms had suggested, at least 2 meters tall when fully extended. Its exoskeleton, a mottled pattern of blacks and grays that seemed to shift with each movement. Its head, if you could call it that, housed no visible eyes, only a series of sensory pits that pulsed with bioluminescent energy. Then it moved. One moment it was at the chamber entrance. The next, it had crossed 10 meters of open terrain. So fast the tracking systems barely registered the movement. The cadet team scattered, firing wildly. Training rounds pinged harmlessly off the creature's exoskeleton. "Spread out!" shouted the team leader. But panic was setting in. The predator focused on the most aggressive shooter, dodging the energy pulses with unnatural precision before launching itself toward the cadet. "Carter, 6 o'clock!" someone screamed. Too late. The predator was on him, one limb pinning him to the ground while another hovered over his throat. A killing position, though the creature had been conditioned not to deliver the final strike in training scenarios. Team 1, first casualty registered, announced the automated system. "Cadet Carter, removed from exercise." The remaining 3 cadets regrouped, attempting to coordinate their attacks. But it was clear they were outmatched. Within 8 minutes, all 4 had been eliminated, though physically unharmed. That was, Tarek swallowed, educational. Mira said nothing, her mind racing through scenarios, analyzing the predator's movement patterns. It wasn't just strong and fast, it was intelligent. It had isolated the most aggressive threat first, then systematically eliminated the support positions. The second team fared marginally better, lasting almost 12 minutes by adopting a defensive strategy. The third managed to actually wound the creature, a lucky shot to one of its sensory appendages, before being picked off one by one. Then it was their turn. "Team 4, deployment in 30 seconds, the system announced. Mira took a deep breath, checking her pulse rifle one final time. "Stick to the plan," she told her team. "Leon, you take high position. Kel, use your xenobiology knowledge. Focus on its sensory inputs. Tarek and I will maintain mobile defense. Keep it distracted." They nodded, faces set with determination tinged by fear. "And remember," she added as the deployment doors opened, "it's learning with each round. It'll expect the same strategies. We need to surprise it." The arena felt different from inside, larger, more ominous. The recycled air carried unfamiliar scents, chemical compounds introduced to simulate the predator's natural environment. Mira's training kicked in as she scanned for cover positions, noting the changes from the previous rounds. The arena's AI had reconfigured certain barriers, ensuring no team had exactly the same tactical layout. "Movement. North quadrant." Leon's voice came through the comm as she reached her elevated position. "It's waiting." Mira saw it too. Unlike the previous rounds, the predator wasn't immediately attacking. It crouched at the edge of the arena, sensory appendages extended, analyzing. "It's adapting," Kel whispered, his xenobiology scanner active. "Reading our patterns before engaging." "New plan," Mira decided. "Tarek with me. We're going offensive." "What?" His voice cracked slightly. "Mira, that's exactly what it doesn't expect," she finished. "The other teams were defensive. It's learned that pattern." She switched to the team channel. "Leon, Kel, be ready to provide covering fire when it pursues us." Before anyone could object, Mira moved from cover, Tarek reluctantly following. They advanced in standard tactical formation, weapons ready but not firing. Yet, the predator's head tilted, sensory pits pulsing faster. Confusion, perhaps? It hadn't encountered this strategy before. When they were 30 meters away, just at the edge of its sensory range, Mira stopped. "Now, Tarek." They fired simultaneously, aiming not at the creature but at the terrain around it, forcing it to move. The predator responded instantly, lunging toward them with frightening speed. "Fall back!" Mira shouted, already retreating toward the prepared position where Leon and Kel waited. The plan worked, partially. The Predator followed, exactly as intended, but its speed exceeded their calculations. It was on them before they reached the fallback position. "Cover!" Tarek yelled, diving behind a barrier as one bladed limb slashed where his head had been moments before. Mira rolled under a low obstacle, the creature's limb scraping against her armor. She fired upward, hitting its underbelly, a lucky shot that caused it to recoil momentarily. Targeting its left sensory cluster, came Leon's voice, followed by precision fire from her elevated position. The shots connected, and the Predator whirled, suddenly aware of the threat from above. That distraction gave Mira the opening she needed. "Kel, deploying sonic emitter now." Kel activated the device, a calculated risk based on his xenobiology research. The high-frequency pulse wouldn't permanently damage the creature, but might disorient its hunting systems. The Predator froze momentarily, its limbs twitching in confusion. For 3 precious seconds, it seemed stunned. "All units, concentrated fire," Mira ordered. Their combined attack forced the creature back, training rounds impacting its exoskeleton in a pattern designed to simulate critical damage. For a moment, Mira thought they might actually succeed in neutralizing it. Then the Predator adapted. With a motion too fast to follow, it retreated, using the arena barriers for cover. The sonic emitter's effects were wearing off, and now it was hunting more cautiously. "It's circling around," Leon warned from her elevated position. "Coming toward you, Kel." Kel barely had time to move before the Predator dropped from above. It had climbed one of the vertical barriers, an ability none of the previous teams had witnessed. "Keldoros, eliminated," announced the system as the Predator pinned him. "One down," Mira recalculated, knowing their coordinated plan was now compromised. "Leon, hold position. Tarek, diagonal retreat to Section 5. They moved in practiced formation, maintaining fire discipline even as the Predator stalked them. 9 minutes had elapsed. They were already outperforming most previous teams. The next 7 minutes were a desperate game of cat and mouse. Leon fell next, the Predator finally reaching her elevated position through an impossible vertical leap. Tarek and Mira held out through coordinated movements, always keeping obstacles between themselves and the creature. "Time check, 14 minutes. Tarek gasped. His breathing labored from the constant movement. "We might actually—" The Predator burst through the barrier beside him, moving so fast it seemed a blur. One moment Tarek was speaking, the next he was pinned, the creature's limb at his throat. "Tarek Omari, eliminated," intoned the system. Mira was alone now, with 40 seconds remaining. She backed away, maintaining her aim at the creature as it turned its full attention toward her. Its sensory pits pulsed rapidly, almost like a heartbeat, as it stalked forward. 30 seconds. She fired continuously, forcing it to dodge, buying precious moments. 20 seconds. The Predator feinted left, then sprang right, a sophisticated tactic that spoke to its intelligence. Mira barely evaded, rolling under a low barrier. 10 seconds. It had her cornered now. All 6 limbs spread in what xenobiologists called the capture configuration. Mira raised her weapon for one final stand. 5 seconds. The creature tensed, preparing to strike. 3, 2, 1. "Exercise concluded," announced the system. "Team 4 performance, survival objective achieved. Tactical evaluation in progress." The Predator froze, its conditioning kicking in as the exercise parameters ended. Handlers emerged from concealed doors, guiding it back toward the containment chamber with specialized equipment. Mira's legs gave out, and she slid down against the barrier, heart pounding in her ears. They had survived, barely, and in doing so, outperformed most senior cadets. "Excellent work, Cadet Solis." Professor Ryland's voice came through her comm. "Particularly your initial offensive strategy. Report to debrief after recovery." As she exited the arena, Tarek was waiting, grinning despite his recent death. "That," he said, "was either the bravest or stupidest thing I've ever seen. Probably both." Mira managed a weak smile. It worked, didn't it? Yes, but next time maybe consult your team before volunteering us as predator bait. She laughed, the tension finally breaking. Noted. The remaining teams cycled through, each learning from previous attempts, each lasting slightly longer. By the sixth rotation, one team actually managed to score what would have been a critical hit on the predator, though they were eliminated shortly after. Then it was Team 7's turn, Leon Karg's team. Mira watched intently as they entered the arena. Leon's teammates looked nervous, but Leon himself moved with the same measured confidence he always displayed. His eyes constantly scanning, assessing. He's not carrying standard equipment, Tarek noted, pointing to Leon's gear. What is that? Leon had indeed modified his loadout, carrying what appeared to be a heavier-than-standard pulse rifle and several devices Mira didn't recognize. Professor Ryland cleared it, said a cadet nearby. Apparently it's Arden technology, classified but approved for this exercise. The Predator emerged from its chamber, noticeably more cautious now after multiple engagements. It circled the perimeter, sensory appendages fully extended, analyzing the new team. Leon's teammates took defensive positions as planned, but Leon himself simply stood in the open central area, weapon lowered. What is he doing? Someone whispered. The Predator noticed him. How could it not? An isolated target? Apparently vulnerable. It hesitated, perhaps sensing a trap, then began moving toward Leon with predatory grace. Leon still didn't move, didn't raise his weapon. His teammates called to him through their comms. Mira could see their agitated gestures from the observation deck, but he ignored them, eyes fixed on the approaching creature. 20 meters away. 15. 10. He's going to get himself killed, Tarek muttered. 5 meters. The Predator launched itself forward with explosive speed, bladed limbs extended for the kill. Leon moved, not away from the creature, but toward it. In one fluid motion, he ducked under the striking limbs, rolled past the Predator's central mass, and came up behind it. Before it could turn, he attached something to its exoskeleton, a small device that emitted a brief pulse of energy. The Predator whirled, faster than seemed possible. But Leon was already moving again, racing not for cover, but toward the far side of the arena. What is that device? Mira wondered aloud. Some kind of tracker? The Predator pursued Leon, ignoring his teammates entirely. Its movements seemed different now, more focused, more aggressive, as if the device had triggered something primal in its hunting instincts. Leon led it on a precise path through the arena, moving from barrier to barrier, never firing his weapon, always staying just ahead of the creature's strikes. It wasn't random. Mira could see a pattern emerging in his movements, though she couldn't discern the purpose. He's drawing it toward the maintenance shaft, observed Leon, who had joined them at the observation window. But why? That area's reinforced. Indeed. Leon was heading toward a section of the arena near the power distribution systems, an area most cadets avoided due to its lack of tactical advantages. The Predator was gaining on him, its 6 limbs working in perfect coordination as it closed the distance. Leon's teammates attempted to provide covering fire, but their shots went wide, clearly afraid of hitting him. Then, something unexpected happened. The device attached to the Predator began pulsing with increasing frequency. The creature's movements became more erratic, more frenzied. It was no longer just pursuing. It was in a killing rage. That's not standard procedure. Professor Ryland's voice cut through the observation deck. He activated his comm. Cadet Karg, disengage immediately. You've agitated the subject beyond exercise parameters. Leon didn't respond. He had reached the maintenance section now, the Predator less than 3 meters behind him. Then, instead of continuing his evasion, he suddenly turned to face the creature, raising his modified pulse rifle for the first time. The observation deck fell silent. No cadet had directly confronted the Predator this way. It was suicide by every tactical analysis. But Leon didn't fire. Instead, he stepped sideways, positioning himself directly over a narrow channel in the arena floor, a cooling vent for the reactor systems that powered the training facility. The Predator lunged. Leon jumped, not away, but straight up, higher than seemed humanly possible. As the creature's momentum carried it forward, Leon fired downward, not at the Predator, but at the cooling vent beneath it. The modified pulse rifle discharged what appeared to be a localized gravity disruption, banned technology in standard Federation training. The energy hit the cooling vent and spread outward, creating a cascading failure in the floor structure. Warning alarms blared throughout the facility. "Reactor stability compromised," announced the automated system. "Structural integrity of training arena at 65% and declining." The floor beneath the Predator began to crack. Power conduits exposed by the gravity disruption overloading in a chain reaction. The creature scrambled for purchase, but the surface was giving way. "Emergency protocols activated," the system declared. "All personnel evacuate immediately." The observation deck erupted in chaos. Cadets rushed toward the exits as Professor Ryland attempted to override the arena's failing systems. Through the reinforced glass, Mira watched as Leon landed behind the Predator, still balanced on the crumbling edge of the expanding hole. With deliberate precision, he fired again, this time at a power junction near the creature. The explosion wasn't large, but it was enough. The weakened floor collapsed entirely, taking the Predator with it into the maintenance level below. Automated containment fields activated, trapping the creature in the lower chamber. "Predator X neutralized," the system announced. "Threat contained. Warning: structural damage critical. Arena integrity compromised." Leon calmly walked toward the exit as sections of the ceiling began falling around him. His teammates had already fled, along with most of the observation deck's occupants. Mira remained transfixed by what she'd just witnessed. It wasn't just a victory. It was a complete rejection of the Academy's carefully controlled exercise. Leon hadn't just beaten the Predator. He'd broken the arena itself. "Cadet Solis, evacuate now!" Professor Ryland's command snapped her out of her daze. She turned to find the observation deck nearly empty, Tarek pulling at her arm. "Come on," he urged. "This whole section could come down." They fled through emergency corridors as the facility's automated systems worked to contain the damage. Behind them, the distinctive sound of metal stress and power overloads echoed through the hallways. 3 hours later, the Academy's emergency response had contained the situation. The training arena was severely damaged but isolated, preventing harm to other sections of the facility. Predator X had been recaptured and returned to secure containment. And Leon Karg sat alone in the disciplinary chamber, facing the Academy's governing council. Mira and Tarek waited outside, along with a handful of other cadets who had witnessed the event. None spoke, still processing what they had seen. "He planned it," Mira said finally, breaking the silence. "Every movement, every step, he knew exactly what he was doing." "What he was doing was trying to get us all killed," muttered a cadet from Team 2. "That reactor breach could have taken out half the Academy." "But it didn't," Tarek pointed out. "The containment systems held, almost like he knew exactly how much damage the structure could take before critical failure." The chamber doors opened, and Professor Ryland emerged, his expression unreadable. "Cadet Solis," he said, "the Council requests your presence." Mira rose, surprised. "Me, sir? Why?" "You outperformed all Standard Origin cadets against the Predator. They value your tactical assessment." She entered the chamber, heart pounding almost as fast as during the exercise itself. The Council sat at a curved table, 5 senior Academy officials, their expressions severe. Leon stood before them, back straight, showing no sign of remorse or concern. "Cadet Solis," began Dr. Alara Venn, the Academy's Director of Tactical Training. "You witnessed Cadet Karg's actions today. As a high-performing Standard Origin human, Your perspective is relevant to these proceedings." Mira glanced at Leon, who gave her the slightest nod. Acknowledgement, not a request for support. "What do you believe was Cadet Karg's objective in today's exercise?" Dr. Venn continued. Mira hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "Initially, I believed he was attempting to neutralize the Predator through unconventional means. And now? Now I believe he was demonstrating a point about the Academy's training methodologies." Dr. Venn leaned forward slightly. "Elaborate, Cadet?" Mira took a deep breath. "The exercise was designed to test our ability to function within established parameters, using approved tactics against a superior opponent. Cadet Karg demonstrated that sometimes the parameters themselves are the limitation. By destroying a multi-million credit training facility," interjected Commander Thaddeus Shaw, his cybernetic eye focusing intensely on her. "By adapting to his environment," Mira countered, "using resources available to achieve the objective, neutralizing the Predator. The objective was to survive until extraction or neutralize the target through approved tactical means." Professor Ryland stated, "Not to compromise facility integrity." Mira looked directly at Leon, seeing something in his eyes she hadn't noticed before. Not arrogance, but conviction. "With respect," she said, turning back to the council. "Deathworlders like Cadet Karg survived on Ardon for generations without approved tactical means. Their adaptability, their willingness to use the environment itself as a weapon, is precisely what allowed their survival." Leon's expression didn't change, but Mira sensed his surprise at her defense. "You suggest we should abandon established protocols in favor of improvisation?" Dr. Venn asked, though her tone had shifted slightly, less condemning, more curious. "I suggest we integrate both approaches," Mira replied. "The Federation's strength has always been its diversity. We train standard origin cadets like myself to follow tactical protocols because they're proven effective in most scenarios. But Deathworlders bring different strengths: instinctive adaptability, environmental awareness, willingness to take calculated risks." "Reckless risks," Commander Shaw corrected. "Calculated," Mira insisted. Cadet Karg knew exactly how much damage the facility could sustain before critical systems were compromised. He created a controlled failure, one that neutralized the Predator, while ensuring no personnel were harmed. The council members exchanged glances, a silent communication passing between them. Finally, Dr. Venn spoke again. "Cadet Karg, is this an accurate assessment of your intentions?" Leon stepped forward. "Cadet Solis is correct. The exercise presented a false choice. Follow protocols designed for standard origin combatants, or fail. My ancestors survived on Ardon by recognizing when established rules no longer applied." "And the Academy's training arena?" Professor Ryland asked. "Was its destruction necessary to your demonstration?" "The arena will be repaired," Leon replied calmly. "But had this been actual combat, prioritizing facility preservation over mission success would result in casualties. I chose to demonstrate this disconnect in a controlled environment, rather than discover it in the field." The silence that followed was heavy with implication. Mira realized that Leon had forced a conversation the Academy had been avoiding: how to truly integrate Deathworlders into the Federation's tactical doctrine. Dr. Venn finally broke the silence. "Cadet Karg, you will be placed on probationary status for the remainder of the term. You will assist in the arena repairs and develop a formal proposal for integrating Deathworlder tactical approaches into the standard curriculum." She turned to Mira. "Cadet Solis, you will assist him. Your standard origin perspective will be valuable in creating a balanced approach." It wasn't forgiveness, Mira realized, but recognition. The council was acknowledging, however reluctantly, that Leon's actions had exposed a genuine flaw in their training methodologies. "Dismissed," Dr. Venn concluded. "And cadets, the next time either of you feels compelled to make a point about Academy protocols, perhaps consider a method that doesn't involve structural damage. Outside the chamber, Tarek was waiting, his expression shifting from concern to relief when he saw Mira's face. "You're not expelled," he observed. "That's promising." "Neither of us is," Mira replied, nodding toward Leon, who followed her out. "Though not for lack of trying," Leon added, the faintest hint of a smile touching his lips. Tarek stared at him, torn between admiration and disbelief. "Was it worth it? Destroying half the training facility to prove a point?" "Ask me after our first real deployment," Leon replied, "when we face something worse than a controlled predator in a controlled environment." Mira studied him, seeing past the Deathworlder exterior to the calculated intelligence beneath. "You knew they wouldn't expel you." Leon shrugged. "I calculated the probabilities. The Federation needs Deathworlders, our instincts, our adaptability. They just needed a reminder of why." "And now they've assigned us to work together," Mira noted. "Was that part of your calculation too?" For the first time, Leon looked genuinely surprised. "No, that was unexpected." Tarek laughed suddenly. "The Academy's top Standard Origin tactical specialist and the Deathworlder who collapsed in Arena teamed up to redesign the combat training program. This should be interesting." Mira found herself smiling despite the gravity of the day's events. Interesting is one word for it. As they walked through the Academy corridors, emergency repair teams rushing past them toward the damaged arena, Mira realized something had fundamentally changed, not just in the facility's structure, but in the Academy's understanding of the cadets. It was training. Leon had done more than collapse an arena. He had forced open a dialogue about the very nature of tactical adaptation. And in doing so, he might have just reformed the Federation's approach to an increasingly unpredictable galaxy. "So," she said, turning to Leon, "where do we start?" The Deathworlder champion considered for a moment, then answered with simple certainty. "We start by accepting that sometimes, to defeat the Predator, you must become one." Behind them, the Academy's systems continued working to repair the damage. But some changes, Mira knew, couldn't be reversed, and perhaps they shouldn't be. The next generation of Federation officers would train differently, combining the best of structured protocols and instinctive adaptation, facing the galaxy's threats, not just with technology and tactics, but with the primal understanding that sometimes survival required breaking the very arena in which you fought. For now, though, they had repairs to oversee and a training program to redesign. The real work, the integration of two fundamentally different approaches to survival, was just beginning. As they reached the observation deck overlooking the damaged arena, Mira saw not destruction, but possibility. The collapsed sections, the exposed systems, the contained predator still visible in the lower chamber, all of it represented a necessary breakdown before reconstruction. "You know," Tarek said, joining them at the window, "there's a saying from old Earth. Sometimes you have to break something to fix it properly." Leon nodded, his eyes on the predator below. "On Ardon, we say, respect the predator enough to become one when necessary." Mira looked between them, the Standard Origin tactician and the Deathworlder survivor, and saw the future of the Federation taking shape. "I think," she said, "we're going to need both philosophies where we're going." Below them, Predator X paced in its containment field, a reminder of the threats that waited beyond the Academy's walls. But for the first time, Mira felt not fear, but readiness. They would face those threats not as standard cadets or Deathworlders, but as something new, something that combined the strengths of both. The arena had collapsed, but from its ruins, a better way forward would emerge. And when the next predator came, whatever form it took, they would be ready.